Alright everyone, it is now time for my updated top 25 roller coasters I have ridden in 2018. I did one of these last year and I'm doing it again just to kind of update you guys on my personal favorite roller coasters. You guys already know everyone makes these lists. Some of the footage in this video belongs to Coaster Watch, all of the other footage is mine, so I'll give their channels the link down in the description below, so please don't get mad over this if your favorite coasters aren't on here. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, so let's get right into this countdown. So let's start off this countdown with the number 25 spot being Wildcat at Hershey Park. Now before you throw all the mugs at your wall and slit your cat's throat, let me explain this one. The reason why Wildcat is actually on here is because it gave me Grizzly vibes. It was old and rough, it just had such a weird layout. I mean, yeah, it's not the best coaster in the world, but for me, I enjoyed Wildcat surprisingly, and the reason it's on this top 25 is just because it was an intense ride, it had sharp transitions, and yeah, I know it was rough, but it still had the trains that made up for it. Very soft padded. GCI did a terrible job with this coaster, but that being said, it was still fun for me. It definitely could have been better, but I don't know why. I just really like Wildcat. Moving on to the number 24 spot, we have Wild One at Six Flags America. Wild One is just a fun old classic Woody. It is very old when I say that. It is pretty intense, has kind of a rough layout, but it is kind of smooth, smoother than most wooden coasters these days, and it was just very fun overall. Had some nice airtime moments and some really fun drops. Number 23 is Comet at Hershey Park, another classic Woody. 3 Woodies in a row, wow. Yeah, Comet was a lot of fun. It is more of a family coaster, but I don't care. It is pretty smooth, in fact, very smooth. Has some nice sustained ejector moments and a really awesome drop. Comet is definitely one of my personal favorites at Hershey Park. So we're going to move on to the number 22 spot, which might actually surprise some of you. This is going to be Grizzly, which is the old wooden roller coaster at King's Dominion. You know, the one you see in those famous photos that is always hidden back in the woods. And a lot of people do not like Grizzly, and I know why. This is a rough ride. If you do not like rough rides, you will not like Grizzly. That is for sure. But I'm one of those people who actually like Grizzly. It's one of my personal favorites at the park. I grew up riding it, and it's just so rough that it makes it fun. And it's a very intense coaster as well. Moving on to the number 21 spot, we have Loch Ness Monster, the Aerodynamics Custom Looper at Busch Gardens Williamsburg. Loch Ness is a classic. This is one of my personal favorites at the park, just because of the vibe it gives off. I have so many memories with this coaster. It was one of my first roller coasters I ever rode. It's just a fun ride. I mean, the drops are pretty intense. They make your stomach tingle. The loops are awesome. The cave section is really cool, and it's its 40th anniversary, so it got this new awesome logo. Loch Ness Monster is a classic, and for an Aero Looper, it is surprisingly very smooth. So, on to the number 20 spot, barely making it, is Fahrenheit. I know, a lot of you love this coaster, and you're probably going to kill me for this. But hey, at least it made my top 25. And why did it make my top 25? Because I don't hate Fahrenheit. I like Fahrenheit. It's just not one of my favorite roller coasters. It was not that intense. That's my only problem. And the airtime moment was not even that strong. The inversions were kind of mediocre. The drop was alright. I liked the drop. It's just a fun ride. You know, it's smooth, it's fast. What more could you want? I mean, it's a fun coaster, but it's just not one of my personal favorites. I think it's extremely overrated. Into the number 19 spot, this is Superman Ride of Steel. Some of you may want to put this coaster higher, but not me. I mean, I like Superman Ride of Steel. It was a fun coaster for sure. It's my favorite ride at Six Flags America, but it just didn't impress me as much as I thought it would. I mean, the drop was great. It was very smooth. The airtime was alright, and the straight sections kind of sucked. Plus, those helixes were very forceless, and the overall ride is just kind of mediocre, you know? It's fun, it's fast, but it's just kind of all at the same time. So, number 18 is actually Manta at SeaWorld Orlando. This is the B&M Flyer there. It's a very famous coaster. You always see that famous shot of it going over the water. And I love Manta. This coaster is a lot of fun. It is a very smooth roller coaster. It did get pretty intense when I rode it back then. It was a very forceful ride, especially that pretzel loop. This coaster was so much fun. I just love the overall experience of it. It is a great roller coaster. Number 17 is a coaster you would not actually expect me to put over Manta, and you're all going to wonder if I'm actually insane. This is Great Bear, the B&M invert at Hershey Park. Everyone knows Great Bear as being one of the weakest B&M inverts. If that is the case, B&M inverts might go skyrocketing in my rankings because Great Bear was awesome. This coaster is very smooth, very well done. The pacing is great. It's a nice long ride. Definitely one of my personal favorites at Hershey Park. Great Bear just has an awesome layout. I mean, it's pretty intense too. For an invert, this is actually really intense, and there's no headbanging. The inversions are great, and that 0G roll is awesome. I love this coaster a lot. It is one of my favorites at Hershey. Number 16 is going to be Rebel Yell, the racing wooden coaster at King's Dominion. Rebel Yell is the classic. I've grown up with this coaster. It recently got the new name, Racer 75, which I refuse to call it, but I don't care. This coaster is a lot of fun. It has some nice airtime moments. It's very fun racing the other side. It's a classic. It's not even that rough. It's actually pretty smooth for its type of a coaster, so it's really cool. Making the top 15 is Kraken. What? I know. Kraken is awesome in my opinion. I'm actually a big fan of B&M floorless coasters, and this one killed it for me. This coaster was very, very intense, very smooth. You just got to keep your head forward and you won't get any head banging. All the inversions were awesome. Even the final corkscrew had my legs going numb. It was a very cool ride. Some of the inversions are kind of Some of them are better than others, but the theming is really good with this ride too. And the drop is so unique how it kind of slightly turns off to the right and then just goes straight down. It's very cool. So we're going to move on to the number 14 spot, which is Griffin. This is a very re-rideable roller coaster. It is a B&M dive coaster at Busch Gardens, and I love Griffin. It's extremely forceful. It has some awesome drops, especially that first one. If you're in the back row, you even get some airtime on this thing. That's how crazy it is. It is just a really smooth ride. Griffin is a awesome coaster. I mean, what's not to love? It's smooth, it's fast, it's forceful. It's a great solid attraction that is very re-rideable. Number 13 is a very unpopular opinion. This is Dominator. I know, I love Dominator though. It is a very intense coaster. Has some great inversions actually, especially that first vertical loop. It is huge. And Taylor actually thinks this ride is kind of dumb. Well, I don't know what to say about that, but I really like Dominator. The corkscrews at the end are actually very intense as well. And when people say this coaster has a rattle, I wouldn't say it's a rattle. I mean, there is kind of a vibration here at the end, but it's nothing too big to notice. Dominator is an awesome coaster, and that's just what it is. The number 12 spot is Verbolten. This is the Zyre family multi-launch coaster at Busch Gardens. Verbolten is insane. I know it is not the world's most intense coaster or whatever, but it's so good. Like, the theming is amazing. The drop track is awesome. The Black Forest is great. The ending section is so forceful. It's surprisingly forceful. And the trains are just so unique, especially those restraints. Overall, Verbolten is a great ride, and I think it's extremely underrated and just doesn't get enough love. Number 11, can we get a rip for Volcano the Blast Coaster? Not operating this season. I have actually gotten the chance to ride this coaster many times, and I have to say, Volcano is a masterpiece. The launches are brilliant. The inversions are awesome. The overall coaster is fantastic. It is one of the best launched coasters in North America, in my opinion. So, we are down to the top 10. This is where things got a little crazy for me. A lot of these coasters are really close, so I kind of had to narrow it down to my favorites. So, number 10 is actually going to be Afterburn, the B&M invert at Carowinds. And Afterburn is awesome. It's a very intense roller coaster. I truly believe it's one of the best inverts in North America. It has a great layout. It has some awesome inversions. Your legs go numb. My personal favorite part is the Batwing. It's extremely intense, and that ending corkscrew is so aggressive. This coaster overall is a masterpiece. Number 9 is going to be Storm Runner, the Intimate Accelerator at Hershey Park. Storm Runner was incredible. I loved it so much. It was so re-rideable. I rode it 8 times the first time I went. It was just so cool. It's very, very smooth. It has a really, really surprising drop. The inversions are great, and the flying snake dive. Oh my gosh, that is so intense. This is definitely my favorite launched coaster by far, and it is just an awesome ride. If you get the chance, you must ride Storm Runner when you go to Hershey Park. Normally, it doesn't really get that big of a line, even on a Saturday. So, number 8 is actually my favorite invert I've ridden. This is Alpengeist at Busch Gardens, Williamsburg. Yeah, you've heard legends about this thing being kind of crummy, mostly from Taylor, and I don't know what he's talking about, because Alpengeist, don't listen to Taylor, okay? Alpengeist is amazing. It is very intense, very, very fun. Like, these inversions are insane. The drop is crazy, too. Like, this coaster is overall amazing. The 0G roll is very forceful. And personally, I kind of prefer the front over the back on this. The back is more intense with it, but the front makes it feel much faster, and it's just an exhilarating experience. And I'm just going to say, brace yourself for that Cobra roll, because it will crack your neck. Okay, so the number 7 spot is going to be Lightning Racer, the Racing Woody at Hershey Park. Wow, this coaster surprised me. I think this was the most surprising coaster for me this year of 2018. It was so good. I was walking in not expecting a GCI to surprise me this much. And spoiler alert, yes, it is my favorite GCI because I've only ridden 3. But anyway, this coaster is awesome. The airtime moments were really surprising. My personal favorite part was the drop because it was just so much steeper than I thought it would be. And it was a great ride overall. Racing the other side is always fun, and it just is a very memorable experience. Number 6 is going to be Apollo's Chariot. For all of you who say this is not an elite hyper, I kind of agree with you. However, you don't have to, like, just straight up say that. I wouldn't go jumping to conclusions because this coaster is brilliant. It is definitely the best ride at Busch Gardens because it is very, very intense for a B&M hyper. The drop off the brake run in the back row at night, holy crap, it is insane. It is a very forceful ride, and the airtime is actually really good. It has some good sustained airtime, and you're just flying through that layout. The helix is really awesome, too. Apollo's Chariot is a classic and has some pretty aggressive airtime moments. I love this ride so much. Now we are down to the top 5. This is where things really get crazy because my top 5 is really, really close. So we're going to start it off with Intimidator at Carowinds. This is my favorite B&M hyper just because of how smooth it is. The drop is great. The airtime is awesome. I mean, this thing has some really, really solid airtime. It's a long ride. And it's just pretty forceful at some points, too. For those who say they don't like Intimidator, honestly, I don't really see how you don't like it. Maybe I just got some really good rides on it, but Intimidator was awesome in my opinion. Very smooth, it was fast, it had great airtime. Alright, so the number 4 spot is actually going to be Fury 325, the B&M Giga Coaster at Carowinds. Now, a lot of you think that Fury is the world's best roller coaster, and most of you have Fury as your number 1. And I can see why. This coaster is awesome. It is very, very fast, pretty forceful actually. However, it's just not as intense as I would like it to be. I mean, it's just not. I mean, the turns are really fast, but it doesn't have those crazy transitions like I-305 would have or anything. And it's just a lot of fun, though. Some of the airtime is really powerful. The drop is absolutely crazy. And I heard if you ride this at night, it is one of the most legendary coaster experiences you could ever have. So now we're moving into the top 3, and number 3 is new runner-up, Twisted Timbers. This is the RMC at Kings Dominion, and I recently rode it as my first RMC, and guys, I have to be honest, I could not be happier. This coaster was absolutely amazing. The drop was my favorite part because of how insane it was. It was so smooth. All the ejector airtime was having me laugh my eyes out. Like, I couldn't even speak. My cheeks hurt after I got off. I was laughing so much. It's such a fun ride. It's so fun and re-rideable. I can't even explain how amazing this ride is. It's airtime, it's fun, it's smooth, it's long. The drop is my favorite part because of how whippy it is, but it's an awesome coaster. Twisted Timbers is a masterpiece for sure. Number 2 is actually going to be Skyrush at Hershey Park. This is the Intamin hypercoaster there. Skyrush is amazing. It is very, very intense. Has some really forceful turns. The Stangle Dive is incredible. And it has insane airtime. Like, I mean, the ejector airtime on here is so painful that it's amazing. And the restraints... Who cares about the restraints? So what? I mean, maybe they do pressure you a little bit, but it doesn't really affect the ride. I mean, the ride itself is awesome. That's why Skyrush is so high. So we're down to the number 1 spot, and I think if you all know me well, you know what this is. It is Intimidator 305. Nothing new, at least not yet. I haven't been to Cedar Point. So, Intimidator 305. Holy crap, this coaster is amazing on a whole other level. It is so intense. It is extremely fast. Like, this thing is so intense you can black out. The turns are extremely whippy and aggressive. I just love how this coaster tries to kill you. It's amazing. Even the drop is insane. The front row is definitely where it's at because it feels faster and the drop feels steeper. So, it's an amazing coaster, and that's why I love it so much. So, thank you guys for watching my new top 25 roller coasters I've ridden. Post your comments down in the section below. What did you think of my list? I know a lot of you probably think I'm crazy for some of these spots, but I'm sorry, this is just my opinion. Anyway, don't forget to like and subscribe, guys, and until next time, coaster fans, I will see you later.